scientists had the material that could replace silicon for over a decade. Faster, more efficient, only a few atoms thick. On paper, it wasn't just better than silicon. It outperformed silicon in several key areas. So why wasn't it being used? Because knowing something works and being able to build it are two completely different problems. And for 10 years, that second problem had no solution. So the material stayed locked inside research papers, while TSMC, Intel, and Samsung kept pushing silicon harder, deeper, closer to its absolute physical limits. Not because silicon was the best option, because there was no other option. Until now. One number just changed. Not improved. Not optimized. Shattered. Growth speed, the single biggest manufacturing barrier standing between this material and a real factory floor, increased by nearly 1,000 times. Chinese researchers were among the first to demonstrate the method. And the country that turns this into production-scale chips first doesn't just win a technology race. It could reshape control over computing for the coming decades. But to understand why that 1,000 times number is so dangerous, you first need to understand why the material was never actually the problem. Every few years, a headline appears. Scientists discover material that could replace silicon. And every time, the cycle is the same. Excitement. Coverage. Then silence. And silicon keeps running the world. So why does that keep happening? Because the coverage always focuses on the wrong thing. It focuses on performance, how fast the material switches, how thin it is, how little power it leaks. And yes, the material at the center of this story, molybdenum disulfide, or MoS₂, outperforms silicon in several key areas. It switches cleaner. It leaks less energy. It keeps working at sizes where silicon physically starts to break down. The material science on MoS₂ was essentially settled years ago. China's research institutions knew it. Western labs knew it. Everyone knew it. The problem was never MoS₂. The problem was the factory. Chip manufacturing is one of the most precise industrial processes ever built. A modern fab operates at tolerances smaller than a virus. Every step has to be repeatable, controllable, and fast. Not fast like a research experiment, fast like a factory. Thousands of wafers moving through production lines every single day. And this is where MoS₂ kept failing. Not in the lab. In the transition out of it. Growing MoS₂ in a lab took hours. The output was microscopic, tiny flakes, beautiful under a microscope, completely useless at industrial scale. Even those tiny samples came out uneven, full of structural defects that destroyed the very electrical properties that made the material promising. Chip factories looked at this and made a simple calculation. An unproven material with no viable manufacturing process loses to silicon every time, no matter how good the specs look on paper. That calculation just changed. And a research team in China is the reason why. Because what they solved wasn't the material. It was the method. And that distinction is what turns a lab result into a strategic manufacturing advantage. The breakthrough comes from a technique called liquid metal-assisted CVD. According to reporting by the South China Morning Post, researcher Xu Mengjian and his team demonstrated that this method increased MoS₂ growth speed by nearly 1,000 times, a result that has not yet appeared in a peer-reviewed journal but has been covered across multiple engineering publications. Strip away the jargon and the core idea is clean. In the old process, growing MoS₂ meant depositing atoms onto a hard, rigid surface and waiting for them to slowly settle into the correct structure, atom by atom, on a surface that wasn't cooperating. The process was slow because the environment was actively fighting the material. Defects formed constantly. Growth was uneven. Scaling it up made everything worse. The new method changes the surface entirely. Instead of a rigid base, atoms are deposited onto a liquid metal surface. That single change cascades into everything. On a liquid surface, atoms move freely. They self-organize. They find their correct positions naturally, because the surface is fluid and responsive rather than fixed and resistant. The analogy is simple. Imagine trying to lay a perfectly flat floor on rough, cracked concrete. Now imagine doing it on a surface that automatically levels itself beneath every tile you place. Same material, same process, completely different outcome. The result: fewer defects, larger uniform growth areas, and that 1,000 times speed increase that separates this from every previous MoS₂ story. But here is what most coverage is missing entirely. Speed didn't just make the process faster. Speed made it controllable. When growth takes hours and produces inconsistent results, you cannot tune it. You cannot systematically improve it. You cannot build a factory workflow around it. When growth is fast and uniform, you can iterate, optimize, and start asking the question that changes everything. How do we do this at wafer scale? This isn't the lab result anymore. And the factory floor implications of that question are exactly why Beijing has been funding this research for years, and why the answer arriving now changes the entire strategic picture. Speed plus uniformity plus wafer scale growth equals one thing in semiconductor manufacturing: a viable production pathway. And a viable production pathway for MoS₂ doesn't just push silicon to its limits from the outside. It threatens the entire industrial infrastructure the West built its chip dominance on. Because here is the part nobody is saying out loud: this material transition doesn't just create new competition. It resets the competition entirely. For 30 years, global semiconductor competition has been organized around one assumption: silicon is the permanent platform. Every fab, every piece of equipment, every export control, every trade restriction, all of it built around who controls silicon manufacturing. TSMC built the most advanced silicon fabs on Earth. The United States built export controls around silicon equipment. The CHIPS Act was designed to bring silicon production back to American soil. Every major geopolitical move in the chip war has been a silicon move. That assumption is now sitting on unstable ground. Here is the strategic reality that mainstream coverage keeps avoiding. If the dominant chip material shifts from silicon to MoS₂ or other 2D semiconductors, the advantage does not transfer. TSMC's fabs are optimized for silicon. The equipment inside them is built for silicon. The supply chain, the workforce, the process knowledge, all silicon. A material transition doesn't create new competition at the margins. It resets the scoreboard from zero. And this is where China's long game becomes visible. For years, China has been locked out of the leading edge of silicon. Advanced lithography equipment, blocked. High-end chip designs, restricted. The message from Washington was consistent: you cannot catch up in this generation. But China never needed to win the current generation. It needed to be first in the next one. A significant portion of China's semiconductor research investment over the past decade has been pointed not at silicon, but at what replaces it. Post-silicon materials, growth methods, manufacturing pathways, wafer-scale production techniques. The exact category this MoS₂ breakthrough lives in. That investment didn't appear randomly. It was a calculated bet placed years ago on a specific thesis. The silicon era has an end date, and whoever controls the manufacturing of what comes after controls everything that runs on chips. This breakthrough is evidence that bet is now producing results. It is not a finished product. It is not a shipping chip. But it is a demonstrated manufacturing capability, and in semiconductors, manufacturing capability is the actual weapon. Not chip designs. Not performance specifications. The ability to build at scale, at speed, with consistency and uniformity across real production surfaces. The United States spent 40 years building that capability in silicon. China may be building it right now in what replaces silicon, and building it faster than the current policy framework was designed to stop. Silicon isn't gone. The challenges between this breakthrough and a commercial MoS₂ chip are still real. Integration with existing architectures, long-term reliability at production scale, the cost of retooling entire fabrication lines. None of that is solved yet. But something structural just shifted. Every previous post-silicon story hit the same wall: manufacturing speed. The material was impressive. The theory was proven. The performance data was there. And then it stopped, because nobody could grow it fast enough, uniformly enough, at a scale any real factory could use. That wall now has a 1,000 times crack in it. And in technology, when the manufacturing barrier drops, timelines compress faster than anyone forecasts. The transistor, the solar panel, the lithium battery. In every single case, the inflection point wasn't the discovery. It was the moment someone figured out how to build it at scale. That is when the race began. That is when the map redrew. We may be watching that moment happen right now, in a story most people scroll past. The country that takes this MoS₂ manufacturing breakthrough and converts it into a production process first doesn't just gain a chip advantage. It gains leverage over every AI system, every defense platform, and every connected device built in the decade that follows. That is what 1,000 times actually means. Not a faster chip. A faster path to controlling what the world runs on next. Now, do you think the West is moving fast enough on post-silicon materials? Or has China already opened a lead that export controls can't close? Drop your answer below. And if you want to track these shifts before they become front-page news, subscribe. Because the next era of computing won't start with a product launch. It'll start with a number nobody noticed.